Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another Greyscalegorilla live show. Happy Thursday to you all. Happy Friday to you on the other parts of the world, just waking up if you're watching. As always, thank you so much for joining us for another Greyscalegorilla live shows. If this is your first episode, we tend to do these every other week on Thursdays. So if you are subscribed to Greyscalegorilla, hit the notifications if you want to, let YouTube yell at you when we're going live. Today's show, I'm extra excited about. It's all about the brand new version of Cinema 4D R25. Let us know in the comments two things, if you've upgraded, and second thing, what was your very first version of Cinema 4D? Would love to see that. And man, I'm so excited. We just skipped right past this guy right over here, drinking some delicious liquid death. Not sponsored, by the way. Chad Ashley, are you hydrated? And how are you today?
Fully hydrated and ready. I've got water and coffee. I've actually got two waters and a coffee, so I'm caffeinated, hydrated, ready to go.
Amazing. Let's pull up the chat room here and chat overlay. Here we are. All right, we got oh man, we have Chile in here, turkeys in here from all over the place. Aziz brought a beer as well. That's fine. That's fine. May join you here in just a bit. We got started with version 5. Chris, holy moly, upgraded version R16. And Chad and I are going to share with you guys our first version here in just a bit. But we got to see what's going on over here. Not yet. Been on since R8. Yeah, you may have to do some math here. 7XL.
2.4. Oh my god.
That may
what year
be
was
around
2.4.
2.4. So they released a number a year for forever. So if I think I started in 7 or something like that. So 7 was 7 years. Let's call it maybe roughly. That was 2002 or 3. So
Okay.
or no, 2002, I guess, would have been 7 or 1 or 2. So if you go back 7 years, late 90s. It's amazing.
Wow.
Amazing. Just upgraded, used since R21. Welcome. Jamaica's here. 90s on an Amiga. I didn't even know it worked on an Amiga. That'd be amazing.
Oh my god. I forgot about the Amiga.
Are you broadcasting from your basement today, Chad? You need fill us in real quick here, Chad. You are in a new location. People were asking on the last show with Smearballs. If you haven't watched that episode, make sure to go check that out later today. I didn't get to ask you about your new location here. Chad, where are you? What is going on?
So we moved out of our house and we got a studio. We got a Greyscalegorilla North studio. We kind of lovingly call it the Annex. And it's a space that all of our Chicagoland people can come and work from. And we're doing some material scanning here. And Jake works here with us. He's on the stream right now. I think he's manning the chat. So we got this really awesome space. I'm not sure how much you can see. Probably if you throw me to full screen, it might widen out a little bit. You could see a little bit more. It's kind of a mess right now. We're waiting for some more furniture to get here. And I still have to hang all my boards up. I haven't hung those up yet. But it's a really awesome kind of industrial space. We'll do a full kind of like walkthrough once everything is kind of set up and working and whatnot. But yeah, I've been loving it, man. I've been so loving it.
That's great. We did a little full screen in there while you were talking. I've stopped by last week. I was in Chicago for a kind of a mini half res event that was happening. It was amazing to see some of you who were there. I know it was a much smaller crew, but it was so great to catch up with you guys. You too, Chad. It's awesome to see your new space. And also to the team who is here, including Jake, who's here to spring some links and help out and monitor the chat. We also have Jacqueline. Said, hey, y'all. We'll be hanging out, hooking you up with links. So give it up for Jacqueline and Jake. Thank you guys so much for helping out. And if we say something like a link or something that helps you guys, look for them to put it in the chat here. And Sean's here. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Thank you all so much for coming. All right. My first version, I think I already said it. I think it was 6 something or 7. And it was back when you had to buy separate modules So you could
Mm,
buy the core version of Cinema 4D for like, I want to say like $600-700 or something like that. But then for every module you wanted, if you wanted character animation, I think that was a module. Once MoGraph came out, that was a module. I think even Dynamics was a module for a little while. But somewhere in the early teens, like a 12, 13, 14, they just slammed it all into one version, or they kind of started phasing it out. And now you could just get one version, which makes it so much easier. But yeah, so that's my first version. Chad, what do you think? Do you remember yours?
I'm gonna see if you remember it.
You told me your dark secret of using Cinema 4D because you were a Max and a Maya guy, as far as I knew, mostly Max, right?
Yeah,
And
mostly.
Chad came up to me at half res and he goes, look, man, don't tell anybody. I'm using a lot of Cinema 4D lately. And I gave Chad wasn't working with us or anything. It's just, Chad that I've known forever in the industry. And I gave him the biggest hug and I said, welcome. Welcome to the Cinema 4D world. And then I said, I will make fun of you tomorrow. But right now, I'm just excited that you are a part. So that would have been one of the big half reses. I'm going to say 5 years ago. I'm going to go ahead and say 24. I'm going to say 21.
Mm,
I'm gonna go with 21.
honestly, I think it was 18. I think it was
18.
18. Yeah, dude. Or wait, no. When did Takes come out?
I don't know.
Because whenever Take, I think that was a thing that I saw that I was like, oh, I gotta go and like check this out and look at it and evaluate it again. And I want to say whatever version Takes came out. If anybody in the audience knows what version Takes came out, that's the first version I ever used.
Yeah, because
I think it was 18.
I forget in the last few years they've also been launching two versions, so it adds an extra number. So I guess I didn't do my math right. So we had S24 in earlier this year, and now of course what we're here to talk about today and what we're really excited to dig into is R25. Thank you all for letting us know where you started. I'm looking at Andy says 17, R17 maybe. Oh no, I think this is
Or
their
was he?
guess for
Oh,
you,
okay.
Chad. This is
Yeah,
their
yeah.
guess for you. Takes were 18,
That
19
that
maybe.
sounds right. 17 maybe. Okay, so somebody Leo saying that R18 was Verneuil. I think yeah, I think it was
19 sounds
17 or
right.
18. I mean, maybe it's 19. I don't know. Dude, it all just kind of blends together after a while.
Um, all right. We are so excited. So here's the plan today. We're going to be talking about the brand new version of R25, which just released last week from Maxon. It is a polarizing release. There is a lot new, there's a lot changed, and there's a big new future for Cinema 4D that they're starting to show us with this new interface and all these other features that are popping out. So we're going to dig into some of our favorite parts of R25, some of the things that I know I was definitely confused about at first, and it's getting more understandable the more I used it. I've had some time to play around with it. Finally got everything installed and upgraded and Octane running, and it's flying. I've had some. Well, we'll talk about it. Some of the stuff with the Wacom pen and scrubbing and all this stuff that I definitely interested to talk about and also hear your thoughts, Chad. And then later in the show, we're gonna pop into R25 and show you specifically some of the pitfalls, some of the cool parts, like just kind of generally show you around where we're standing with R25 right now, and also answer any questions you guys have, because that's really what we're here to do. Answer your questions. And if you're a Plus member, this is part of what we do. We show up and answer your specific questions to help keep you up to date with all the latest stuff, and also help you create beautiful renders. One last piece of news before we jump into R25 is Plus members. We are now fully compatible with R25. If you haven't updated, go to your dashboard and you can download the latest version of the Greyscalegorilla Hub, and it's really easy to just install it and click install all, and all of your plugins will be updated. And also be sure to watch the video on our R25 page, because it shows you how you can instantly move your existing library of assets, HDRIs, materials, and plug it into R25 without having to re-download everything. So that saves a ton of time and a ton of bandwidth if you just simply follow the 1, 2, 3 steps on that page. And I did it yesterday, and it took, just a couple minutes really to go through the whole process. So definitely go check that out. If you're a Plus member, you are all ready to go with R25, and it's flying around in there. All right, get your questions ready, everybody. We'll be talking R25. We have a huge crowd here. Thank you guys so much. It's our biggest crowd in a few live shows. So for those of you who are new to these shows, thank you guys so much. We're going to dig in and start answering your questions all about R25. And Andy put it in a good way. Maybe something we could start with here. Andy says, let me just throw it up on the screen. R25 is a grower. There's a lot to like if you live with it for a week or so. I think this sums up a little bit of not only my initial thoughts versus actually playing with it and using it. I think when it first was announced and the videos all came out, just watching the videos, there was a lot to kind of think about. There's a lot of expectations as I installed it and was getting kind of ready for this big new interface change. And as I started playing with it, I felt my shoulders relax. And once I found out where my cloner went, and once I found out where my sphere went, I just felt a little bit better. And Chad, what are your initial thoughts, or what were your initial thoughts, and where are you now after using R25 for a week or so? And one last thing, get your questions ready in the audience because we're going to be jumping to you guys in just a bit.
Yeah, I think that overall it's good. There's just some decisions that I'm a little bit like, huh, like that is weird. Or maybe that wasn't, I don't really agree with that. And that's fine. We don't always have to agree on UI changes, but yeah, I think it's okay. It's a good release. I like it more now after playing with it for a solid amount of time. But there are issues with it that I think everybody should be aware of, and hopefully we can get some stuff changed.
Yeah, so maybe you could fill in, what was your thing that stood out as like, wow, that is a positive big change that they made? And what is something that stands out to you that's like, not sure where they're going with this
Mm.
change? And for those of you who haven't tried it yet, maybe a way to kind of frame this conversation is like what to expect when you go in for it, or if you've only just installed it, trying to help our audience out there, manage these changes because they're there whether we like them or not, frankly. So with that kind of framing, what is your favorite piece, and what's the thing that you're like, what's going on?
Well, but I think before we get into it, I do want to say that, their release schedule is really aggressive. So they have to put out a lot of stuff in a short period of time. So I understand that that is like a challenge. And so I understand that, we're not going to see like massive updates every single time a new version comes out. So yeah, I do understand that. However, like everybody that has not installed it yet needs to understand that the content browser is gone. So content browser is gone. The ability to use the content browser for catalogs, because that's something that I did. I like to link files in my content browser via catalogs so that I could just quickly bring them into Cinema and whatnot. So I met a few people that were unaware that that was even gone. So yeah, that is gone. I was a bit sad to see that go, but I will say that I'm actually enjoying the asset browser. I think that it's actually got some interesting, cool features. And I think honestly, this release is big for people who are looking for workflow stuff. So I think it's a good release if you're looking for ways to collaborate with someone or a team and really like shore up your workflow and put together some presets and rigs and share stuff. And I think this release is actually really good for that. I think the things that I don't like about this release are almost exclusively the UI choices. I think and you already know that I've already mentioned this on Twitter a few times. I think it's overall too dark, And I think the icon design, the monochromatic icon design, is really, really hard for me to differentiate what I'm looking at. So a lot of what we do as visual people is we're looking at an interface all the time, and we sort of memorize what that icon is, or the color combination, or maybe even the contrast level of an icon or something, because 9 times out of 10 we're not reading that stuff. It's going to be very hard for us to like sit there and read a menu every time we want to grab something. We're visual people, we want to see an icon, and a lot of the icons are monochromatic, and they kind of blend into the interface, and you can't really tell what you're looking at. So it becomes really hard to develop that muscle memory with your eye, because you're just constantly like, is that the bend, is that the taper, like, and it's just kind of hard to see. And then there's other things about, I can go on and on about dark UI. I mean, of course I like dark mode on most things, but you have to be careful with dark mode, because what ends up happening with dark mode is your pupils dilate. It's dark, your pupils dilate just a little bit. And if you know anything about cameras, if you have a wide aperture, you have a very small focal plane. And so your eyes are working harder to kind of like essentially look at a piece of text or an icon or whatnot. And what that leads to is eye fatigue. So I'm not saying that their interface is like so crazy dark. I'm thinking it's just like a little bit too dark for me. So I tweaked it a little bit, and I don't actually know if I saved that setting or not. But I was playing with it the other week, and I found a setting that I liked that was working better for me. But overall, I think there's just some weird decisions with the UI that I'm not really in love with. But I will say, positive, them moving stuff around. I think a lot of people were really like bummed about that, and people were like, "Oh man, my muscle memory." And I gotta say, like, I agree with most of the things they did when it comes to moving stuff around. I don't think they were on the wrong track there. They're trying to basically keep you in a similar area so that you're not having to basically span your entire screen to grab something, which I really like. But I will say the where they lost me is just in the color, the UI, the icons, things like that. I think need to be tweaked a little bit. It's monochromatic icons are tough, man. Like there's a reason why icons usually have an outline around them, and that's because you want them to pop. Now it may not be the most visually design, you know, pretty, or it might not be aesthetically awesome or whatever. I'm struggling with words today, but like there's a reason that they do that. It's because you need that readability, and you can't sacrifice readability for design as much as as a designer I would love to. But when it comes to UI and UX, it's readability is number one. But yeah, I feel like I just ranted there for.
No, I think it's a good framing for kind of initial reactions because my reaction was I knew going in that a lot of stuff was moved and changed, and watched some of the videos out there, and was kind of ready. And what I realized was I've been using Shift C more and more as they add new features, and as I forget where certain modeling tools are and where certain effectors are and all that stuff. And I've been moving away from menus and knowing where all the icons are in general. And so I found myself just reaching for Shift C, which if you haven't used it yet, I think they call it the commander, but it's essentially an easy search tool for everything inside of Cinema 4D. So if you ever are not sure where something is or what the new icon looks like, if you do remember the name of it, you could hit Shift C on your keyboard and just start typing and hit enter, and it'll pop up in your um, uh, in your layers over there, basically. So that's been saving my butt for sure. I've been trying to, you know, try to remember to use the new icons and the new menus, which by the way, like you said, I like that it's over on the right now. That does feel more intuitive going down next to the kind of the assets there. That does feel better. I just can't quite yet. It's only been a week on, remember what each icon is. So I've been finding myself using Shift C. It's been saving my butt as far as like where everything is. And it really allows me to not really worry about as they change the icons themselves and try to just use that. I will say I do so far like the darker mode. I like more real estate on the screen for the viewport. I like how they laid everything out and made it more there. Um, I really enjoy the hot corner metaphor. And if you haven't used it yet, there's 4 little hot buttons in each corner of in the main interface that opens up. I'm going to forget all of them, but I think the timeline from one side, your material manager from one corner, the new asset library from one corner, and I forget the fourth one. But it's a hot corner button, and I'm actually really excited about that because that allows you to kind of open an interface that you don't need all the time and then easily close it and put it away. And we'll be showing you guys that too when we jump into kind of a screen sharing portion a little bit later today. But that was cool. I dug that. And other than that, a couple other notes I wanted to touch on, which might be a setting. I got to figure this out, but I use a Wacom tablet. I use a pen for everything I do. I had serious mouse problems and RSI problems over 10 years ago, and I switched to this, and it just helped me so much. Up until now, it's worked really, really well.
Up
In
until now, I know
Up until
exactly what
now,
you're gonna say. This is
it's
almost
worked.
keeping me from using this program, to be completely honest. Go ahead.
It is really rough. And there might be something I'm missing, but something I'm finding. So let me say the positive first, which is I really enjoy the idea that you can go grab and scrub on almost any number, and it works with your mouse or a pen, and you can just scrub on it, and it pretty intuitively moves the slider up and down. And it doesn't do that thing it used to do where it was like it would just crank it to a billion, and you could never scrub because the slider would go to a billion and you would crash cinema. I haven't seen that, so I do like that they're limiting the clickability. It's really easy to click in. They also added this thing where you can click and then start typing, or use your arrow keys to move up and down a slider. So we'll show this a little bit later. But what ends up happening, at least for me, is the the um, the number that you're changing stays highlighted after you use the arrow keys or after you scrub it. And then what's the next button that you usually hit after that? For me, it's like moving around the interface, which means I type a 1 or a 2 or a 3 because I don't use a mouse, guys. I'm using 1, 2, and 3 to navigate around. And what do you think happens to that slider that is highlighted when you hit 3 on it? That perfect amount of slider scrubbiness that you just dialed in that said, 232 clones or whatever I was scrubbing on. And I feel like this is exactly what I want. I go touch my keyboard and pivot my camera around, and boom, that number goes to 2. And so I got to go back and remember where we were. I don't know if you've bumped into that, Chad, or if there even maybe there's a fix for it, but there
Dude,
is some muscle memory there that I really, really have to struggle because I've been messing that up over and over. I have tried to click out of it, and this Photoshop
yeah,
does this a little bit too. You're like typing and then you click out of it.
yep.
There
You
might
you
be
try to, like, do that thing that, like, you shouldn't have to do, but you do it so that it doesn't break, and,
right.
like, I hate that. So, number 1, I despise numeric field sliders. Hate them. Hate them because with a Wacom, it's almost impossible to get the hit just right. So you end up misclicking, and I misclick on in this program more than any other program I've used. And I don't know if anybody out there uses Fusion, but Fusion has the same thing. They introduced the slider numeric inputs, and they're terrible too. Like I always misclick. Oh, let me try this, and it's just there's no reason for it. I don't understand. I don't think anybody was asking for this. I don't recall anybody suggesting this, but I don't understand why that was needed. To me, it just kind of feels like it. I don't. Maybe there's just not as many Wacom users out there. I don't know. But when I'm in 25, I am like, is this going to keep me from using this program? When I just misclick 5 times, and I'm just like, what am I doing? It just frustrates me.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's I mean, I'm hoping it's one of those things we can get used to quickly. This happens all the time with any interface change. And I'm already, like I said, it hasn't been so many days. I was out of town. I was in Chicago during the announcement, so I really haven't gotten a ton of hours on it. But even in the few moments that I've had with it, I do feel more and more comfortable every time I use it. But it definitely is for me, gosh, approaching 18 years of muscle memory, and about 10 or 11 of them with a tablet. That is pretty tricky, and that's tricky for anybody that's really going to drastically change the interface. So I hope that it's that easy that we can just get used to it. But it is
I just hope
definitely
they allow
something.
us to turn it off. Like, just let us turn that off,
Turn off the
please.
scrubbing, right?
Just turn off that feature, please. And maybe somebody out there knows a hack, a way to do it or something. I don't know, but it's
Yeah, and
definitely the thing that drives me nuts.
I gotta say too, what's nice, and this is part of the why they went subscription too, is they can go update and fix stuff now and just get it out to everybody, which is really cool. They couldn't do that before for a lot of reasons and legal reasons to give you a big patch back in the day with new updates and features. Now they could just come out with a fix and a little update. They did this last version when they came out with those dynamic placement tools, which those I love those, by the way. If you guys haven't upgraded to S24 and you've been waiting for 25, don't forget, if you're sitting on 23 right now, you actually get two versions of updates when you upgrade to 25. You get everything in 24 and 5. Some of those things that they announced in 24 are these dynamic placement tools that let you dynamically put stuff on a table and without having to place it so everything's not touching. Really, really fun and really intuitive, I think. And something everybody was asking for, including me, was the ability to hit record and animate that stuff. And right after that 24 version, so many people were mentioning that they just came out with a patch and they're like, now you could just hit record, um, and record all these keyframes of your dynamic placements. And now you could like smash stuff together in using your pen on the screen and then play it back in real time. Anyway, I'm only mentioning it because the reasons we talk about this stuff, and hopefully somebody at Maxon might watch these kind of things. It's like they hear enough feedback, they're going to go, make a setting or a feature that helps these kind of things. So that's the whole idea behind this stuff, is to talk about the tools that we use every day and talk about what we like and maybe what they could change in the future. And I encourage everybody out there to build that relationship with any piece of software that you use, because it helps everybody. It helps users. It helps companies understand what their audience wants, and
Yep.
it's endlessly helpful. Right? We talked about on last live show how we got feedback on Signal updates. Right. And then we came out with a big new version of Signal that actually addressed a lot of those things and a lot of things people were jumping into. But we never would have known that without our customers and the users of our software letting us know, like, hey, I use this all the time, but what if it did this? So anyway, that's all there. Why not use alt click instead of 1, 2, 3? Raphael. I don't know. That's another muscle memory. I've always used it. I've always used 1, 2, 3. Let's see here. Maybe it's a good time to jump into a few questions, Chad. What do you think?
Yeah, let's do it. What do you got?
Guys out there, if you have a R25 question, we're also going to jump into some of the other features that they came out with and talk about those in more detail. We're also going to jump into Cinema 4D R25 here. And if there's any questions we can't answer, just on screen here, hopefully we can answer them once we jump into R25. All right, let's get some questions. Try to add a queue. Thank you, Thomas, for adding a queue there. That helps us out. And this is a good question. If anybody knows the answer, this is actually something I would like to know. Thomas says, is there a way to change the hot corner? For instance, replace the timeline with the plus library. I was trying to do this yesterday without success. I didn't look too deeply into it. But what I did want to happen was when I clicked the material manager, I wanted the material manager to come out and then put the plus library at the bottom of it so that I can add materials really easily while I'm in material manager mode. And then when I click the hot corner again, it just moves everything, including the plus library, up into that icon. It wasn't working for me. Maybe there's another setting or another way around it. Has anybody changed a hot corner? Do they allow that? I don't know the answer. Chad, have you messed with it?
I didn't like them, if I'm being
You don't like the
honest.
hot
Like
corners?
I kind of just already made my layout the way that I like it. And I guess the reason that collapsible elements kind of like throw me off is because they kind of shift everything. And if you have like an IPR going, that can screw things up. So I kind of like to keep everything in its place, and I don't like to use like collapsible stuff that often. So
I'm
yeah,
mostly that's actually what I'm really excited about when we do the screen sharing is your interface, like how you set up your layout. I'm really excited about that. Cause I honestly, guys, I tend to copy Chad because he's thought a lot more about it than I tend to. And we'll dig into that a little bit later after we answer some more questions. Uh Ed Worrell, it's probably messed that one up. From Twitch, thank you for watching over at Twitch. Appreciate you guys. Facebook, if you're watching there as well, and of course YouTube. When will HDRI link be available for R25? It is now currently available. So if you're a Plus member, you can go in and download the new hub and install absolutely everything compatible with R25, including HDRI link. And of course, you get all of the HDRs as well. And so definitely go check that out. I think if you go to the website, click on the top banner and you will get access to that. If you're not a Plus member, R25 is your HDRI link is compatible through S24, and for 25 and forward, everything Grayscale Gorilla is now in Plus. So if you are using S24, you're all set to go. We'll never be taking your HDRI link away or any plugins you've used back in the past. But starting with R25, all upgrades will be included in for Plus members only. Good news is because you're an existing member and you've purchased our stuff in the past, we have a special offer for you guys that is in your library. So if you're looking at upgrading to Plus and getting everything for R25, definitely go into your dashboard as a customer. Just use your regular login. This goes for everybody who's ever purchased anything from us in the past, and you have a special offer inside of there to join Plus and to get absolutely everything, including all the materials and all the other stuff on the site. So don't forget to check that out. And of course, for any Plus members, you are all set, ready to go. Just go download the latest hub and you are ready to go. All right, let's see here. Any other questions? Let me jump down here. When's the Grayscale Gorilla token? What would you get? What would you get with the Grayscale Gorilla token? Like access to like events, you know, I don't know, early access to, tools and material collections. That'd be
swag.
interesting. Some swag. I mean, it'll just go up forever, right? The Grayscale Gorilla coin. That's how that works.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, let's see here. All right. Works great. Ian, thank you so much. Sounds like you upgraded to R25. You're ready to go. And thank you so much also for linking to this. You can see all of the updates and R25 and all the licensing updates there. And we got the new Redshift update. Yeah, let's jump into this one. Not in R25 questions. What are your thoughts on the new Redshift update? Chad, I know you've been using Redshift a lot. What are your thoughts?
I think it's good. I haven't really played around with RT that much. I just kind of turned it on and turned it off and just kind of like, saw that it was working or whatnot. But the whole RT thing is interesting. I think it could be something that is really useful for people, specifically those that may not have a super powerful GPU rig. And yeah, it's cool, man. I was playing with it a little bit, but honestly, like my system, I didn't really see a huge benefit other than from just like rendering it out regularly. But I need to play with it more, obviously. Yeah, I'm super hoping that Redshift releases random walk subsurface very soon. Or God, please let that happen. Um, yeah, I mean, otherwise, honestly, I've been really happy in Redshift. It's definitely Aces when they introduced like the default Aces as default. It really like opened that up again for me. It opened up Redshift again for me because one of the things that was holding me back with Redshift was the look of it. I didn't really love the look of it. It didn't really have a really filmic kind of look. And when Aces became default and it wasn't, you didn't have to jump through all these hoops to get it working. I was like, wow, okay, I'm gonna look at this again. And now we're using it internally a lot more these days. So yeah, I'm digging it. I'm just really hoping that they bring some of these new features out soon.
Yeah, I'll have to dig more into it. Really been obsessed with the Ace's workflow in Octane ever since you put that video out. And it's a huge step up in, like you said, that filmic quality. If anybody here watching has not checked out and you use Octane, Chad's 5 minutes Aces tutorial in Octane, go check that out. And if you're a Plus member, we dive deep into Aces as well in a big piece of training. And like Chad said, Redshift now supports it natively, like almost automatically, right? Like you're just ready
Yeah.
to go.
It's on
And
by default, which kind of think screws up a lot of people. But if you just kind of take a minute to like look at what they're doing, it makes sense.
yeah, it really is a game changer. I describe it for anyone that went through the linear, yeah, the linear versus oh gosh, I'm losing the name. What was that mode that we went through?
2.2.
Yeah, exactly. The gamma kind of issues that were happening in the early 2000s or mid 2000, or I guess it was late 2000s, 2008, 9. That was a huge shift. And it was hard to kind of understand. It was, and it made your scene much darker, and you had to kind of add a lot more light to things. This is really similar. It's a new way to kind of think about how you light and um, how you use the program. I think it really fundamentally shifted the realism of every render I've put through Octane ever since you showed it. And now if it's in Redshift, that's just even better. So definitely check it out. Linear workflow, that's what it was. Thank you.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah,
it's pretty sick, dude. I gotta say though that like one thing that I think people get tripped up on, especially if you're new to Aces, one thing that you'll notice, like if you render out something that's like white and you render it out in Aces, it's not really white. So especially if you're doing like motion design, you want something like really poppy. It's going to be really hard to straight out of the renderer get that poppy bright look because Aces naturally wants to like kind of give it a shoulder
kind of clip it.
and like taper it off in a really beautiful way. So if you're a Plus member, hit me up on the GSG Connect Slack because I made a little LUT that is applied after Aces that kind of just boosts it a little bit. Kind of, I call it like a little like Aces vibrancy push that kind of pushes things up a little bit afterwards. So if you're a member, hit me up on the Slack. I think I posted it there not that long ago, but I can repost it if you need it.
Yeah, good reminder for anybody who is a Grayscale Gorilla member. We have our Slack channel, and people are answering questions all the time there, helping each other out, get stuck with techniques or hardware or what hardware is available at this point. People are really having great conversations there. Anybody who's ever purchased anything from Grayscale Gorilla has instant access to our Slack channel. Make sure you go log in and come join us. And it's been an awesome community and growing all the time. So definitely come join the Slack channel. Hope to see you in there. Let's get a few more questions here, and I'm going to go through some other new features in R25 and kind of talk about them. If you haven't used them, obviously we could skip any of these. But I just went down and I watched Rick's video where he kind of went through every new feature and wrote them all down here. So thank you, Rick. That was helpful. I appreciate it. All right, so we have the new tabs at the top. So the tabs
Mm.
now allow you to quickly switch between different scene files and layouts without having to go to a drop down. And at first, I'm like, is it really that, that difficult to go into a menu? The more I play with it, the more I really enjoy that. You know, it kind of feels like you're in a browser, and you have 20 Chrome tabs open, like I always do, and you could quickly kind of eyeball where you're heading, and you can copy and paste between things or eyeball your settings on one side and bring it over and do all that stuff. So yeah, I actually we should jump in and do a screen share maybe in the next like 3 minutes here. Let me go through some more of these features, and then if you want to just do the screen share, you want to talk about
Well,
that, Chad, we
I
could do
wanna
that.
well,
That
the
sound
thing that
good?
you just mentioned, I wanted to talk about that, and, like, I have a suggestion for Maxon if they're out there. I'm sharing my screen right now if you wanna bring it up, but,
All right,
um
let's do that. So, all right, hey guys, keep your questions ready, and we're gonna get to those. And especially if we could show it in the screen here, maybe it's a good time to jump into screen share. So let's do that. All right, let's go to chat overlay. Let me turn that off. Do this. And are you ready, bud?
Yeah, so you brought up the tabs, right? And I think the tabs are like super interesting. And I love that. I love actually the idea of these tabs. But what they need to do is you notice how in this side, when we're talking about like these scene file tabs, I can drag them and move them around. And that's great. I love that.
Ooh.
Now, I want that same ability with layouts because in layouts, I can't do that. And what ends up happening is, as you make new custom layouts, they kind of they show up here on the right hand side.
Oh, your
And
custom ones are over
yeah,
on the
so the
right.
custom ones are like way over here. Now, what I want is the ability to shuffle these around in the UI the same way that I shuffle a scene file around. So maybe, and this would be sticky, like if I close Cinema, these would open up in the same place that I left them, or maybe they're saved to the layout. I don't know. But I want this ability to essentially reorder these layouts to where I want them. Anyway, I just wanted to show that to people because I'm not sure if people knew that you can actually drag these.
Yeah, no, I didn't know you can move even the left ones. Ryan Summers, good to see you, buddy. Thank you so much for joining us, man. We got Stellar saying love the tabs. I do too. Really, really interesting, addition that I didn't know I would love until we played with it. All right, while we're here, Chad, can I run through some more new stuff and maybe you could either show it off or we could kind of see it in the. I mean, first of all, let's take a step back and just look at this new interface, right? So for those of you that haven't jumped in yet, Chad, it looks like did you go back to the old layout? Is that what I'm seeing here?
Oh, I
Because
don't
I'm
think I did. Did I? Did I
yeah, you
accidentally do it? No,
I tell
wait.
you what, your icons are at the top there,
Maybe I
instead of
maybe I accidentally touched this thing. Yeah, why are they
no,
justified to the left here?
yeah, they that should be off on the
Oh,
side
there we
there.
go. Okay, so I got into some kind of let's see if we can
Some
do that
custom
again.
mode.
Yeah, okay, so if that's there.
Standard is
Oh,
like up top.
interesting.
Oh,
So
so I heard this. So for people who were a little confused, I think they added this tab really easy to find. And just in case you get completely lost, this kind of reverts back to closer to the original or I should say the past layout. So by default, this is not what it looks like. Go back to the other layout there, Chad. And we could see, first of all, why don't you generally, Chad, walk us through some of the big major changes that you see right away as a previous Cinema 4D user, just to kind of help
well,
out the audience, and if somebody's new or getting ready to install this, like get them ready for some of this.
yeah, so everything is kind of organized. It's trying to keep you in specific areas of the frame based on the kind of work that you're doing. So if we are in standard mode, then obviously everything is a little bit different. You've got like your point, edge, face, object mode, all in the center here. And then these hot corner things that people were talking about before are these ability to kind of fly out these different menus. This is the new material lister here, and then on this side you've got the asset browser over here, and it's not terrible. I think it's pretty great actually. What I really enjoy is like if you tab over to the UV edit mode, they kind of move things around a little bit here so that it makes a little bit more sense as you're doing your UVs. Now, one thing that you saw at the beginning when I must have accidentally hit this. And what's confusing for me is like if I accidentally hit this and I'm in this like old layout mode, and you can tell, but I'm in the old layout mode because everything is justified over to the left.
Yep.
There's not really let's get into the UI colors situation. There's no real way for me to tell that I didn't even know I was in this mode. Okay. So like I didn't know that I was in this antiquated old layout mode because there's nothing really highlighted. I don't really know. And then when I just happen to flip this, I'm like, okay, now I'm no longer in the I guess I'm in the new layouts, but until I do that, I guess I have to click this. Oh wait, no, I actually have to turn that on, then click this. So it's
Mm,
little things like this that are a little bit like, I'm not sure if this is like, and you end up sort of like stumbling around at first, which is totally normal. And with any program that kind of changes up its interface like this, I still stumble around. I'm not really that new to I'm pretty new to this program to begin with, so I might not even be the right person to like give a tour. But yeah, so there's these different layouts, and of course you can save your own, and I'll get into those in a minute. But yeah, so everything is just slightly changed around. Getting back into what we were saying earlier about the icons. So even if we let's just actually peel off the deformers here. So peeling off the deformers here, and let's just go make them the size is going to be original size. Now, at a glance, it's really hard to tell what's what. If you take a really hard look and you look at the shape of this icon, you're like, oh, okay, I guess that's not a leaf, that's a bulge. So there's just some strange choices that are kind of hard to see, and it's not really like I can immediately memorize these shapes because they're kind of like all blending together in my brain right now. I will say the new melt icon looks pretty cool. I just wish it was more popped off the background a little bit more and was a little bit more recognizable.
I mean, if
One
there's
thing that,
icon most needed on a t-shirt, it's melt and collision. Those are my picks. Love
yeah,
those.
the jiggle is kind of interesting to me. I like the little action lines. But here's one thing: if anybody from Maxon is watching, the palette handles. So these little dotted lines running at the top of my palette here. I'm going to guess everybody on the stream cannot see these because I can't see these. And these are important to see because this is the handle in which you're going to be dragging a palette around, or it's the handle in which you're going to be right clicking to change the size or whatever. And this color interface, man, like it completely disappears. So if
Did
I
that
come over,
used to be the little grippy look, like a
yeah,
little
it had
almost
like
checkerboard grip to
exactly,
it?
exactly. And it's all but disappeared with this color scheme. So here's a trick. I don't know if people know this one, but let's just I'm actually going to go into my Redshift layout. So if I'm in my Redshift layout and I'm not using my IPR at the moment, and I want to collapse down my Redshift render view, I can hit Control and the hamburger here, and it's going to collapse that down over onto the right. Now, in the older versions, that little grippy graphic, the dotted pattern would be right here, and you could see it a little bit better. But in this new scheme, it's like it's gone. Like I have to like really look for this little line to be able to click it to bring back that render view. So it's just little things like that I think need to be tweaked to make that stuff more readable. Anyway,
Yeah,
I kind of went off on a tangent there. Sorry about that.
that's all right. I mean, I think these are the changes that is great to kind of let people know, especially if they haven't tried this yet. So I'm gonna jump in at some other new features. Let me know if you've used them yet, Chad. So we talked about the click and drag in the fields, which is new, and some of the issues with that. But I think overall it's a good idea. I don't mind the clicky number thing. Maybe you could show this off real quick.
Yeah,
Um,
so I'll just
yeah, go
watch
ahead.
this. Watch. Like it's going to be I'm going to misclick and I'm not trying to misclick. There, I got it one. Didn't get it. Didn't get it.
Yeah,
Didn't get it.
so That's
Didn't
been the
get it.
issue for me too. So if you're
Got it.
watching, there's kind of two modes. One is you can click and scrub. So can you just click and scrub on like X there, Chad, just to
Yeah.
show or whatever? So you can click and scrub on any one of those sliders, which I think in general is pretty good. But then every once in a while you click and you get an actual selection where it clicks on the actual
I'm trying to click it right now, by the way.
yeah, like what if you just want to replace it with a 400?
Right.
So
That's my
this
point.
is
Like,
yeah, exactly. So this is some of the new stuff, and somebody mentioned that maybe spacebar removes that selection. Can you hit spacebar and check it? I just was we always learn from you guys too. Um,
whoa, definitely did not
that did
work
not
for
work.
me.
All right, I got bad info. I'm not blaming the chat, but I'm saying maybe I misread it. Anyway, I think this is definitely something that is going to take some getting used to and maybe even learning. It's just not the default behavior that we're used to, and I think there's something here. I do like the sliding sometimes, but man, when I just want to click and type 200, it seems a little tricky.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're gonna fill you in as we play with it more, and of course, if you guys have any suggestions, let us know if there's anything. Um, so Ruben says you could double click and then that's now select. So double
Yeah.
click
But
is
even double clicking is like with a pen,
with a I know
it's
with a
hard.
pen. I think it might be more exacerbated. Did I say that right? I think it's worse with a pen. Let's maybe start there and say people with a mouse maybe are not jumping into this as much, but I definitely am seeing some issues with a pen. Double click with the field. I love having you guys here because I learn as much from you guys that have used it. Yes, and we should be saying too, there is a new feature that you can use your arrows on your keyboard to move stuff up and down. And this is kind of a neat little feature. If you click and use your up and down arrow, Chad,
Yep, I am.
this works. And then if you want to make it more fine, use a right arrow and your cursor goes to like a different digit type. So right now you're in the hundreds. If you use a right arrow, it'll go to the tens. And now your arrow actually only moves it in the tens position. And if you were to move your arrow over again, I know the screen real estate's a little small here, guys, but bear with us. If you move your arrow over again to the right, you're going to be in the ones. And now you can go up and down one by one, which I think is kind of clever
I'm
as we
doing
get
that.
used to that. But
I'm arrowing up
it's
and
good.
down. You said
Yeah,
I should
isn't it?
arrow up and down?
Yeah, arrowing up and down is only going to change where your cursor is. So if you put your cursor all the way to the point oh yeah, like in the tens position, let's say, or in the percentages position,
No, it's only
then
going
it'll
up incrementally on the entire number. Or maybe I have
on
to
the
hold
end.
down shift or something. Oh, you have to hold down shift.
Shift is like 10x or whatever.
No shit. Oh yeah, I guess shift would be. Yeah, it's not doing it. I don't know. We'll have to look at that. Maybe I'm guaranteeing that's going to be user error.
Yeah, that it's definitely going to take some getting used to here. Could this be a Wacom resolution setting? It could be. So as we learn this stuff, guys, we're going to be throwing it out to you guys. Let me jump into some more R25 updates. So we got the click and drag, which you looked at. Have you played around with the presets? I'm like really in love with the new preset
Oh yeah, that's the best
manager.
part.
I think it's one of my favorite new features. And if you're like me, uh, uh you tend to create objects and then instantly go change them. So what do you do every time you grab a sphere, Chad?
Raise them segments.
Raise them segments, because you know what? Octane, and I don't think Redshift does it either. They don't round it for you the way that Cinema used to instantly. It made it perfect, right? So now what if you want to save that raised segments as the default? Well, we could do that in the past. Earlier versions of Cinema 4D allowed you to create a new default by right clicking, I think, up in the menu. It was up in like the mode or edit menus, and it was like save new default or something. Now chat is showing you save preset. Now this is awesome because now we can create presets. And your screen's a little small. Sorry there, chat. It says add what does it say? Add default?
As default.
As default. So now what Chad is doing by saving this and clicking as default, he is now saying that every time I create a new sphere, I want it to be these settings. Check that out. No more needing to raise it every dang time. And this works with everything as far as I've seen. You could do this with your cloner objects if you always use it a certain way, or your text tool. Basically any object, if you find yourself always making the same changes, you can go not only create new defaults, but literally your own presets. So you can go in and make a large, light like that up in this. I think it even allows you to save position and everything else. You could just say like, make an area light and put it right there. Pretty sure that's the case. I haven't dug too deep into it. I've only watched some of the videos, but it looks really powerful and really allows you to say, well, look, I always use, you know, these objects in these 10 ways. How do I do it? So did it work there, Chad, for the light?
No, it didn't work.
So there are things that you can override. There are settings in there that says, hey, only change one part of it or override it. Still something we're going to jump into. And by the way, people are asking, we're going to have a more in-depth training series for R25 for Plus members. Should be out in the next couple weeks or less. So stay tuned for that. If you want to really dive into some of the new features and see how all this stuff is set up, we're going to have some training for you guys inside of Plus really, really soon. So stay tuned for that. All right. Looking at the chat here.
It did work, but it won't take any
position data.
any coordinates. So you're gonna have, if you want coordinates to be saved, you actually have to save it as a preset in your asset browser. But this is like a parameter preset, so it's going to look at the parameters of this light and save that out as a preset.
Ryan says presets is almost as big of a deal as takes.
I would agree. I think
it's
the
really
asset
good.
Browser in general is like super awesome, and I kind of went crazy with it and started building out team resources for the team here, and really kind of getting into it and like building out little template files, and I even made my own little icons here. So yeah, I kind of got into it.
Yeah, the new asset browser, I think it was new last version, I want to say 24. And in the meantime, they allowed the content browser to the old school content browser now to sit there as a legacy content browser. I know you mentioned this at the beginning of the stream, but for anybody else that's joined, the content browser is now gone. So this means a lot of things. It's really the reason, the new R25 update just requires Plus at this point, because our asset library, our material library, our HDRIs, HDRI link, the way that that's tied to the asset library, we don't have the old content browser to even use anymore. And so this is not only a big change for any of you who use a lot of the content browser stuff, but something to also start to learn is this new asset library, because it is pretty powerful. You got some new gradients to share with me, Chad?
No, I just loaded in the ones from Plus over here.
These are the ones that are existing. I love those, by the way. I use that one in the upper right all the time.
Here, I do want to show you a cool trick if you want to talk about how to set some of this stuff up. Hello?
Oh, do it. I'm waiting. Let's go.
Okay. I can't see you, so I'm
Sorry.
like, did I just die?
I was like, I'm nodding, not thinking.
I can't see you, dude.
I'll nod louder next time. I'm sorry.
One thing that's kind of cool is the ability to like save presets and stuff into the UI. So if we come over to Window, Customize, and Command Manager, and we go into Edit Palettes and make a new palette, and let's say right here I have this starter scene, this like my starter Redshift scene. It's got like all my layers set up. It's basically a scene file. And I actually came over here when I made that scene file. I said add project to database, and I put it into my database, and I gave it a fancy little icon. And there we have it. But now I want to be able to just anywhere in the interface be able to click that button and have it load that starter scene. So I've created a palette, turn on edit palettes. Let's just drag this item up into our palette. And if I can let go in the right time. And I'm going to get rid of the icon. So I just want it to be text. So I'm going to actually turn off the icon. And there we go. And let's go ahead and turn off edit palettes. And we're going to drag this up into the interface here and maybe put it right there. And of course, this is something that I hope that they fix. This has always been a problem. And if anybody out there has the answer, let me know. Whenever I have a palette that's justified to the left and I drag it into this top bar, it automatically changes the orientation. And I always have to go like that. And then still with that dotted menu, getting back to that color thing, I can't see this thing, which is a real problem because anybody that's done this knows if you misclick, you screw up everything and you end up having to like rebuild that palette. All right, so I'm just moving some stuff over here, moving some of our scripts over here. Cool. Yep. All right. That's where I want it. That should be easier, by the way. I hope it is someday. So now let's just get back here. Anytime I want to use my starter scene, I can just click this button and it's going to load my starter scene with my layers, everything set up here, everything the way I want, all my tokens, my Redshift outputs, everything set up for me. And so you can literally create presets, turn them into buttons, put them anywhere you want. They also have these cool dynamic menus, dynamic palettes that can change contextually based on what you're doing. I haven't set any of those up yet because they're kind of mostly for modeling, it seems like. I haven't really found too many contextual switches that I would need in my workflow. But if you're a modeler and you want to make a palette that changes based on edge mode or face mode or something like that, you could do that really easily. So the same thing that I just showed you right here, creating the starter scene as a button here, you can do that with objects in the asset browser too. So if I come down into my, and by the way, I organized all this stuff. This doesn't really come this way. I'm sharing this team resources with our team here in the studio. So we all see the same database, which is kind of really amazing, actually. So let's jump into our presets here. Actually, I think I saved that in my local resources. So let's go to presets lights. So you can see here again, I'm nerdy, dude, and I went and designed all these little icons myself, just because, yeah, I like that stuff. Anyway, so I made presets for all the different lights that I always use, right? A quad light, aka area light, for Redshift, for Octane, for Arnold. Same thing with an HDRI on a Sky Dome for all three renderers.
I don't know if it's me or you, Chad. I think your audio was crackling.
Oh,
chat
really?
room, can you confirm?
Am I crackling?
It says you're moving. Hopefully we're okay.
Did I maybe
can you guys
overload?
give me a thumbs up in the chat that everything's okay? Can you guys still hear Chad? I lost everything. You're back.
Text not clear with streaming. Please explain when you point cursor. Okay, that makes sense. He sounds good, they say.
Okay. Let's go. I think Sorry. I had a little hiccup there. Oh, and
no worries.
I'm also getting word that Jake and Jacqueline out there in the chat, we did not give you a full admin privileges to even put links, and that's on me. I messed it up. So what I need you guys to do, Jake and Jacqueline, if you're still there trying to paste links and none of them are showing up, I apologize. Just say something without a link, and then I'll go into the chat right now and give you guys admin or whatever they call it, moderator, I think they call it. Yeah. So there he is. I see Jake now. I'm gonna go give you moderator. Boom. And Jacqueline, if you're still around, I apologize. They did not have permission to post links, and they're like, "Why isn't it working?" Sorry, guys. Jake, you're good now. And then Jacqueline, if I see you, I'll approve you. Chad, go ahead, man. Sorry to interrupt there.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I saw somebody in there said the text is really hard to read, so I apologize. I'll try to, explain a little bit more. Anyway, this is probably really hard to read, but anyway, I made two databases for myself, a local resource database and a team resource database that is shared with a team, which I think we can go into deeper on that if you guys want. But anyway, the idea between these with these buttons up here is very similar to what I had going with my starter Redshift. I made a preset, I turned it into a button. I did the same thing with these lights, which I'm always bringing in an area light and setting up HDRI link on it, or I'm bringing in a dome light and setting up HDRI link on it. So what's great about saving these out as presets and turning them into these buttons here is that now all I have to do when I want to create a Redshift quad is hit this button, and a Redshift area light is created with the HDRI link tag, and it's also raised up into the air and pointed down. Because one of my pet peeves with these renderers is you create a light, and let me just create one really quick. It puts it at the center, and it puts it facing, I believe, away from camera if your camera's facing forward. And when is that ever useful? It's not ever useful. This is not anywhere you you want to have a light made. So yeah, making them into buttons is kind of nice, and not having to worry about that as much. So yeah, the stuff that they did workflow wise has been really what I've been the most excited about, and being able to specifically create shared resources or shared databases with people. And the way that you have to do that, you have to be on the same network, or you have to be sharing. We use Google Drive file stream, so everybody's using the same drive letter. So Jake's resources are in the exact same place as mine, so we can essentially share presets, share scene files, share anything that we've made here, including icons and things like that. So I loaded in some fancy icons. Let me see if I can find those. So I made these icons a while back for folders for organizing nulls, basically turning nulls into folders. Anyway, so I brought in all these icons, I loaded them in to our shared database, and then I add Jake restart cinema, and sure enough, they showed up for him too. So now he can, just like me, come over to a null and come in here and go basic icon settings, load preset. And these presets show up for him just like they did for me, and he didn't have to do anything. So if you're managing a team or you're working with a team and you want to make sure everybody's using the same stuff, this is actually pretty powerful. Now, the
Yeah, that
downside, sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was just going to quickly say the downside. The downside is that this is a true database, in that if we were to navigate on Windows to these folders, it would just look like gobbledygook. It's just going to be a bunch of encrypted files that don't make any sense. So if you go down this path, you are putting your faith in Maxon that this is going to hang around for a while. If you start to make your workflows dependent on this, then you really have to trust what they're doing and that it's not going to change anytime soon, because it is locking your shit in, and you just have to be aware of that. I'm okay with that because we kind of have to stay current with everything that Maxon's doing, and we just need to be using whatever version the latest version is. So I'm okay with that. If I was in production, maybe on commercial production, I would be a little bit skeptical. I might wait a little bit and see what happens, and really vet it out. I probably definitely would not use it for like job related files. I wouldn't like try to save an entire folder structure here and like run an entire job through here. But for rigs, presets, lights, things you're sharing that you're going to use again and again, it's actually really cool.
Yeah, that's super powerful, and you could share that with many people on a team too, right? Is that
Yeah,
what
yeah.
I'm
As long as now, one thing that I hope they bring is the ability to lock these assets down. Right now, you can't lock any of this stuff. So, for instance, if Jake opened up one of these like presets here, and he deleted it by accident, or he opened up one of the template files and changed it and accidentally saved over it, then that would be bad. That would not be good. There's no way for me to like lock that down, but you can. It does have some versioning control. So if we select the starter scene here that I loaded, and we go to view, where's it at? I'm gonna be struggling to find it here. Where's my detail? Oh, I have to right click it. This is another thing that's kind of weird. So I would, if you're watching Maxon, show details should also be in view, but right now it's only if I right click this item and say show details. And down here at the bottom, this is where you're going to see any dependencies, meaning like any files that are linked into the scene or plugins. So you can see I've got all the plugins that I have in the scene. You can also, I highly recommend checking out Chris Schmidt's video on R25. He covers a lot of this stuff in depth. In fact, that's where I kind of like got the idea for some of these workflows. But what I wanted to show is versioning. So we have the starter scene file and it's version 1.0. I can come in here at any point and add another version, or I can revert back to a version. The way you do it is a little bit weird. You have to, I believe, click this and it creates a new version 1.1. Then you got to open that version. I'm not going to get too deep into that. It's a little bit on the dull side, but anyway, you have the ability to do versioning here. It's not like, super robust, but it's useful. So for instance, if Jake wanted to change the scene file, he could, and then he could save it as another version. And if we decided we didn't like that setting or something, we could roll back to that other version again. It's a little bit convoluted, but anyway. But I wanted to show you this cool thing that I think Chris actually does in his video that kind of is the reason I have all these cool icons. Is I went into Figma and I designed a really quick kind of template for all the little presets and whatnot that we make. And once you've got an image, let's just say, let's say I'm afraid to like open up a browser right now. I don't, if I have any like stuff we can't show. So I'm just going to screenshot actually a part of the UI. And let's just do like our little thing right here. I'm just screenshotting this little section right here. And my screenshot tool is saving that image to my clipboard. So if I come down here and I right click this little icon, I can update this preview from my clipboard. And it's taking whatever image is in my clipboard and making it the image for that preset. So it's kind of a fast way to like quickly put together some interesting thumbnails for your stuff so that you can remember it when it's sitting in there.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool stuff.
Highly recommend you check out the new I always get the name wrong. I think they call it the asset browser now. Is that
yeah,
the name of
it's
it?
the asset browser.
Came out last version. It seems like it's getting more and more powerful. And like we said, it completely replaced the content browser. And that's kind of a heads up for, anybody out there who's relying on the content browser stuff. And it kind of talks to what Chad was saying, like, building into this new world, sometime in the future, there could be a time where this goes away and for something new. I think obviously this is brand new. I think we got a long time for that, but it is one of the things you do want to, create some sort of backup or just remember how it's all, remember how it's all laid out, especially if you rely on it. But it is really powerful tool. And they have a ton of new stuff, by the way, that you can go in and click and try, and scene files and all these things you can go download. So definitely go check it out. Chad, what do you think we I don't think we'll need to screen share to talk about scene nodes and some of the other stuff that came out. Maybe we'll head back and do like a lightning round at some of the last few features here in cinema, and then answer any more questions people have and try to wrap in the next 15-20 minutes. How do you feel?
Yeah, I think people probably have a ton of questions about the stuff that we just talked about. So yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so pull up. Awesome turnout, by the way, guys. Thank you so much for joining. If you want to, help us out, make sure you hit the thumbs up thing. That'll let people know that we're live. It'll also let people know that you enjoy what you're seeing, and kind of help us out on YouTube. It's all algorithms at this point, guys. Help us out. And by the way, if you want to join us in future live shows, we tend to do these every other Thursday. So definitely put that on the calendar, or hit the notifications in YouTube, and YouTube will yell at you instead. So let's do this. Let's get some questions ready if you have any questions based on what Chad showed. And then I'll also talk about some of the other new features that I did not have a ton of time to jump into, but if anybody has questions about, it's something we might be able to answer in future shows. Other new features include scene nodes, which came out last version. I think 24 was the first version with scene nodes. But now you have some new interesting nodes and ways to use them, including capsules, which is kind of a hierarchy version. It's almost like an effector way of using the new scene nodes. You can now import data from databases. So if you have a bunch of external data that you want to bring into Cinema easily, that used to be really difficult. You had to have like a specific plugin or a specific, parser to get all this data in. Now it's built right into scene nodes. And then, of course, this blue noise thing, which I love. It's like a circle packing, algorithm that allows, for like a bunch of objects to be in the same space without touching, no touching. And I am really excited to dig into that. I just haven't really had the time to dig into scene nodes. Chad, any thoughts on scene nodes? Have you been able to sneak in there, either the last version or this version? One last thing, I know I've done this twice now. I ask you a great question, Chad, and then I just keep talking.
That's just what you do.
It's just kind of what I do, guys. Something to remember is they are changing scene nodes a lot, and so like we talked about with the asset browser and all this stuff, you got to be careful, because as they update it, things break. So it's very much a beta, or I don't know what Maxon's term for this is, but it's very early on, and I think it's going to be a major part of cinema. Obviously, it's built into the new core. It's super fast, but it's something to keep in mind. Is if I think, correct me if I'm wrong, chat or Chad, if you made stuff in R20 S24 and open it in 25, a lot of that breaks. And so you just have to be really careful as you play with this stuff. It is changing very, very quickly. So
Yeah.
thoughts on scene nodes, Chad, or any other thoughts about that?
You know, I've played with them when they were brought into 24, and then I played with them again, and I played with Capsules, and I gotta be honest, I think they're very complicated. They're even for someone that's been doing it for a long time, I feel like um it was really hard for me to figure out what was going on and what it was doing. And then I think there was like there's just like so many here's I guess the best way to put it is like I feel like I didn't get a sandbox. I got boards and a bag of sand and some nails, and like I don't know how to build the sandbox. And most node-based systems, Houdini, and some others are give you some more, I guess, fully constructed building blocks to the things that you need to do. And I feel like that isn't there yet. And so for me, I just got frustrated, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I just got a little frustrated, and I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna wait and see where this goes, because right now I tried to actually use the circle packing thing that you talked about, and I had an idea that I wanted to try to make, and I couldn't make it. I just couldn't figure out how to do it. And I feel
That's
like that's where I'm struggling.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it, which I see the power in this. Like, first of all, obviously the new core is way faster. Everything I've seen built with this, and it's super fast. And Andy, by the way, had the right term. They call it a tech preview. So I think that's a good way to think of this. This is a tech preview of technology that will be coming soon and easier to use in future versions of Cinema 4D. And so I'm with you that we're not quite in the IKEA world of building stuff. We're in the like Home Depot world of building stuff. You need to understand how to really get nails and wood and paint and how to plane wood and go build a chair from scratch. If you follow this metaphor, this crazy stupid metaphor here, you you have to be a woodworker to really understand and really dig into how all this stuff works. And if you are and you are more technically minded or really have the time to dig into all these nodes, there's some super powerful stuff you can go build. But you're really at that Home Depot level of you got to really do it all yourself from scratch.
Yeah.
And then I think as we move forward, things like capsules make this feel a little bit more like an IKEA world, right? So now we got some instructions. It's a little bit more clear, but you still got to really put a lot of work in to get the bookshelf up and running. And it's not as creative as an act as it is really almost rule following or trial and error. I should say it's kind of how it feels right now. But
Yeah.
there is going to be a world in the very near future. Obviously, this is where they're headed, where they're going to come out with a new effector, a new node, a new MoGraph tool, something that brings this technology to more of an artist and a designer type, where they can now slide on the sliders and get the look they're looking for. And we're obviously on our way there. We're just not quite there yet. So it's super powerful, but like you said, Chad, it's the instruction manual is not really there yet, and it's not intuitive.
Yeah, I
What
think
what what were you
that's
saying?
the thing. What I wanted to touch on is that I really feel like the reason that I like using Cinema 4D is because it's very intuitive. It doesn't get in my way creatively, and it is powerful enough for most of the things that I want to do. And I want to see the nodes Maxonified, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I haven't seen that yet. So I haven't seen what nodes look like. We all know the complexity of nodes in Houdini, in Blender, all that stuff, right? We know that that's a complex paradigm that exists in these other programs that is, you know, powerful as shit, but like complicated. I want to see that Maxonified to the point where it's intuitive, it feels nice, it's designed well, and it doesn't get in my way. If they can figure out a way to make that happen, similar to how XSI was, I always like bring that up, but I think they were on to something back then. Anyway, I really hope that, because right now it feels like it doesn't feel very Cinema 4D, you know?
Yeah, I think they've been clear, like they said there. I forgot who said it up top. I just had it on the screen. They've been pretty clear. This is not production ready. And I think it's just a reminder here because y- every other new big feature for years and years and years has really been pretty stable and ready to rock for everybody. You know, when Voronoi Fracture comes out, for example, years ago, you're like, I could just start using this. And so it's just a reminder to everybody that this is different. This is different, and it's a new, like Andy helped us remember, a tech preview. And so go play with it. Go, uh, kind of mess around with it. But if you're like me or you're excited to like what the next step is. Raid Zero says Maxonified is the word of the week. Chad, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions as we move on to a couple last features? We got the track modifier, which um, I haven't played around with too much. It looks pretty powerful for some animation effects and kind of smoothing data, smoothing mocap data. As far as I've been seeing, haven't been able to dig into it too much, but hope to see some more about that. Chad, any track modifier? Um,
I
have you
haven't
have you messed
played
around with
with
that one?
it. I haven't played with it, but I've watched a bunch of videos. I feel like there's parts of it that kind of don't make sense, then there's parts of it that do. So I need to get in there and like play with it. But yeah, I mean it's stuff like that that I think is needed. But yeah.
Awesome.
Somebody said, I think I saw on there like I think some people are like excited about like the idea of cinema becoming more like Houdini. And is it weird that I'm not? Like, is that weird? Like, I like cinema for the reasons that I like it, and I hope, really hope that they make nodes again using that word maxonified, because that's the reason I like it. I like it because it's pretty. It's got a great UI. It's fun. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe I'm weird that way.
No, I think you'd agree with this, which is cinema's best feature is that is it's approachable for new 3D artists, right?
Right.
It is easy to use. You can almost what I really love about cinema, and this is true for almost every feature, since R11, is that you can combine all this stuff together. So it's this really beautiful additive creative process that they introduce dynamics, and then they introduce soft body dynamics, and then they introduce uh, Voronoi fracture, and then they introduce dynamic collisions, and all of those things can be smashed together in a really beautiful way, and they all combine together to create, kind of like you said, a sandbox that allows us to go in there and really build up something beautiful as an artist. And as these as you think about Houdini, that is a very specific program that says we need this to do this exact thing, and I need to go almost code it to do it. Knowing just enough about Houdini is it's not as much of a sandbox as it is more like that Home Depot metaphor that you can do almost anything in it, but you really got to know how to use each tool and uh, really be studied on what each node does. So as long as Cinema 4D gets to the same point with these nodes where an artist can just come in and start messing with them, but then you can still open up the hood and your hands dirty and get in there. I think we'll be fine. I think it's okay if it gets more complex and appeals to a Houdini world, as long as that's not the default, right? So you can do so much crazy stuff with dynamics and even thinking particles, or even the particle system in general, Espresso, or these new nodes. But as long as there's that surface level that makes it easy for a new person or even just people new to 3D to understand that that has to be there for to keep this Maxonification and the reason we really just love cinema, um, uh, like to keep it in everyone's workflow, right?
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I think it's a really delicate balance for them to like they need to make it function with the new core and like all the nodes are a huge part of that, but they can't lose sight of that ease of use because that really is that's the foundational DNA of the program. And
Yeah.
I think you can't get away from that. And yeah, I'm really hopeful that it will eventually become a really nice, easy for new users to pick up kind of thing. And like you said, like they don't have to go under the hood. That's totally fine. The other thing that I want to touch on too is I really want them. I think we need a particle system native so badly that it blows my mind that we still don't have one. Like it just has become, and every 3D application that I've ever used in my entire career, there are two major things that every single one of them needs to have: a really good built-in renderer that you don't have to pay extra money for, and a particle system. And I'll throw dynamics in there too. but but like that, those are like the foundational things, man. Like can we please get Redshift built-in default, and can we please get a particle system in Cinema 4D, please?
My God, how great would that be? How great would that be? Um, that's hopefully an amazing new world. As honestly, Maxon's been adding a lot of new stuff like Redshift. It's now at least a part of the family, and we're seeing more and more integration. Man, that's exciting to think about one tool like that can kind of give you that much power. All right, we got a few more questions left, and then we'll head out for this one. Thank you guys so much for coming and thumbs upping and asking all these questions, and we really appreciate it. We love these shows, and we learn a lot from you guys as well. Just seeing what you are up to, and kind of get a gauge on who's upgraded, and even these little tips we're finding in the chat. So we appreciate you guys as well. Yeah, Gabriel says no built-in great renderer, no particles, no fluid. Yeah, it's got like three pretty big missing pieces, and it's complex. That's none of those things are easy, but I think that's a good wish list for sure. Um, let's see here. Right, I'm gonna integrate Redshift. Yeah, I mean, I think the integration with Redshift is getting a little bit better. It's obviously now a part of their package, so if you get the Maxon one, you obviously get Redshift and some other new tools that they've been adding recently. Um, and it's definitely getting closer to that for sure. But I think the particle
Yeah.
system's a good way to think of it.
I mean, I saw it happen with Mental Ray and Arnold at Autodesk. You know, they bought Mental Ray, took a while, and then eventually it was the default renderer, and now they did the same thing with Arnold. And I really feel like I don't know, what's keeping them from doing that, but it definitely seems like that should be the default. But yeah, I'll also throw there was another thing that I think is needed, which is oh man, it was on the top of my head and now I just lost it. Particles, yeah, yeah. I don't know. I forget it. If it comes back to me, I'll just scream it out.
It's been an hour and a half.
I know.
Chat as we wrap up. I appreciate you, crew out there watching. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. R25s obviously just over a week old at this point, as far as us being able to use it, download it. A few little kind of end of the stream mentions here. If you're a Plus member, we now have R25 fully compatible. Make sure you download the latest hub. Watch the video where we show you how easy it is to transfer any library that you've used before in Greyscalegorilla, all of your stuff over to R25 in really, really short amount of time. Jake's got the link for you guys. Thank you so much, Jake. Appreciate that. Go check that out. If you have been a previous member of Greyscalegorilla, have bought any product of ours in the past, we have a very special offer for you guys to join Plus, stay up to date with everything, including all this R25 stuff, and be able to use not only anything you've purchased in the past, but obviously use everything that we have, including all of our new material collections, new plugins, all the great new stuff we've been adding over the last couple years. Go check out your account. We have a very special offer for you guys to join and come bring everything into R25. Get ready. Check that out. Any other news we have? We'll be off next week as far as a live stream, but then we'll be back in 2 weeks from tonight. And Plus members, some of you were asking about this layout, the new Chad layout, and if he will share it with you. Chad, I'll just ask you directly. Can you share your layout with our Plus members?
Absolutely. Hit me up on GSG Connect in the Plus channel, and I will share with you my layout. I have a layout that's pretty much the same for Redshift, Arnold, and Octane. So if you use any of those three and you want to take a look at it, come by.
Awesome. Big reminder for everybody, do not forget, if you're a Plus member, join the Greyscalegorilla Connect. Ask questions. The entire community helps out each other and helps each other get unstuck. I've seen it happen thousands of times in there. Come on in, join us. And also don't forget, we didn't mention it at the beginning of the stream, we have brand new training, and it's all about hard surface modeling. So if you've been looking at learning how to model, we now have the very best hard surface modeling training that has been hugely popular and recommended by hundreds of artists for so many years, or for a few years since it's been out, by Toby Pittman. And it's called Making It Look Great 11, I think it's called. So you may have even seen this training out there when looking around for modeling training. It is now included in every Greyscalegorilla Plus membership. It's in your library, and it is awesome. So if you've ever wanted to finally learn how to model, dig deep, and learn from one of the best, you can now go do that inside of Greyscalegorilla Plus on Gorilla U. It's right there in your library. Go check it out. Andy, thank you so much for coming, by the way. Andy's, I mean, I could just say it right now, making some incredible R25 training just for you guys. Stay tuned, because Andy's training for R25, breaking down a lot deeper than what we could do on a live show, is coming to Plus as well very soon. So thank you, Andy, for working so hard on that. We're super excited to get that out. And we got some nice comments here for the Making It Look Great training as well. All right, look at this. Let's end here. Joseph, I appreciate it, says thank you, Greyscalegorilla team, for another flawless stream. Jake, thank you, Jake, for all of the links. Jacqueline, sorry, I did not give you permission to put links, but we're going to solve that. We're going to solve that. And here we go. There's another one. If anyone's been following John Dickinson, this is how he's learned modeling. And John's been very open about his progression through modeling. He's become an incredible modeler, making some incredibly detailed models and motorcycles and engines and all this crazy stuff. This is where he learned it as well. So Spiderfink, sorry you just got here. We're going to be wrapping up here, but don't forget the live streams are archived on YouTube. So don't forget to subscribe, and you can rewatch it as well. Dean, thanks for coming. Leo, thank you all so much for coming. Chad, thank you for sharing your screen and some of your initial thoughts for R25. As always, if you guys have comments, thoughts, put them down in the comments. Even on a replay, we read every single one of them, and we learn a lot from you guys as well. So if you know how to put something in a hot corner, let me know. I want to do it, baby. All right. Thank you, everybody. Chad, thank you as always so much. Thank you, Greyscalegorilla team, for showing up and helping out with the links. See you all in another live show really soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.